Well, this is some good old-fashioned hardcore gaslighting of the fans and everybody else to say, this is what we were going to do all along. This is, wow. I'm going to say wow a lot because this whole thing, first and foremost, we criticized Triple H on the week of WrestleMania, talking about how he was workshopping the heel turn with John Cena, pulling the lever, all this stuff. He gave that away where we were to the point where, why don't you just give the finish away while you're at it? Rock is essentially giving away some finishes right here in the future. And the Cody thing with this thing with the soul and the terminology, this is what I'm interpreting from when Rock is, it's Hollywood speak. It's PR speak. It's literally, I mean, it's on the verge of, it's not going over to gaslighting the fans to basically say, yeah, I didn't show up. We kind of ripped you off as far as bait and switch, myself for Travis Scott. That we're going to get to that whole contradictory part of it as well. There are many in this interview, but what in the world are we doing with, it's almost like Rip Rogers said, this stuff is not hard to figure out. Pro wrestling is not hard to figure out. This feels very much like I mean, we tend to overthink and overanalyze, so I understand, and I can identify it very easily. Rock is putting us to shame with overthinking, overanalyzing. This feels like the Hollywood Country Club creative meeting. You're thinking of it in terms of very complicated corporate speak, very complicated Hollywood speak, very complicated public relations speak. It's pro wrestling. Rip Rogers 101. This stuff, he has a more hardcore word for it, a few of them. This stuff is not hard to figure out. You appeal to people's emotions. The whole thing about selling your soul, too, it's so, I don't know. It feels very wishy-washy with the soul thing. Now, he's talking about Cody's soul. I'm going to pass it back to you. Who is the person trying to capture Cody's soul? Who's the person trying to capture John Cena's soul? And then whoever this mysterious main eventer had said, I'll sell my soul to you. And he's like, oh, let's do it, brother. I love you. And you'll see that in the future as well. Who was the person wanting the soul? The person that didn't show up at WrestleMania. Mm-hmm. And he explained this. How did he explain it? As far as why he wasn't needed at WrestleMania, because what he's laying out with the Cody's soul capture, the soul stone from Avengers, is where does his soul go when he sells his soul? To the dude that didn't show up at WrestleMania 41. So I don't know if I'm heading in the right direction of us kind of breaking down this interview, but it was all over the place. Let me end it with that as well.
Do you know who he is? He's Shang Tsung. Your soul is mine. But then he didn't take anyone's soul because he didn't show up.
Yeah, that guy didn't end up being in any further parts of the Mortal Kombat scenes at all.
Yeah. No, he definitely was not in the pivotal final fight at the end where Liu Kang does his version of the Hadouken kind of thing. Right.
Well, Travis Scott came out for the final fight. Travis Scott made an entrance on there. It was good enough.
Yeah, he wafted some sage or something instead. Stank, and he went, fell off into the pit, into the stalactites or whatever. Right. Before we get on to everything else he's saying, why don't we stick with a couple of things? He's doing, once again, as you said, the CEO speak. He's doing the businessman, the suits, the country club, where I've got nothing against a country club, a golf club. You know, where he and Nick Khan and Ari Emanuel are all drinking tequila and
maybe that front row Karen that got
run
over, quote, by the ATV.
She's going to turn up again, actually, funnily enough. But here's what bugs me, right? Do you know what wrestling is? It's blue collar. It's as of all people, Werner Herzog said, it is like a base early version of a Greek tragedy. It is obvious. It is emotional. It is all those things. It appeals to the base instincts. And then there are people like, apparently, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson now. And I also remember this. Some goofball who control your narrative. Whoever put the money or whoever claimed to be the creative guy for the control.
EC3.
No, not EC3. No, it wasn't EC3 at all. It was some other dude who was part of making that thing up. Not Braun Strowman, none of the wrestlers. And he was talking about how we're going to elevate wrestling and how we're going to, do things in pro wrestling that have never been done before. You raise it as an art form. And it's like, you didn't. The Rock won't. All you're doing is just going to annoy the existing fan base, because wrestling is easy to pick up. It appeals to your, the most obvious, easy emotions. Once again, I always like to quote Dutch, slap me in the face with it. You want good guys, you want bad guys, make it obvious. Don't AEW's got the same issues, where in a different way, where they just do not explain things to the casual viewer. They make you think too hard, or they make you have to imagine scenarios in your head to make things work. That kind of thing. And now WWE are doing it, and I don't know exactly what point I'm making, but just there are too many people out there who are trying to make pro wrestling too difficult. And as you say, Rick Rogers is right. Wrestling is easy if you stick to the basics, the fundamentals. You'll never grow old.
What it is, too, and this is not a slight on wrestling fans. It's not a slight on the business, nor who we're trying to appeal to. There's a famous thing, we might have said it on past episodes, probably say it on future ones. Wrestling appeals to the lowest common denominator. That's what it is. It's not the lowest class of people. It's the lowest common denominator of emotional reaction, of logical reaction, visceral, raw energy reaction, all the above or anything else you want to say. When you try, and this is a term that I'll probably use time and time again if Rock continues this sort of whatever he's trying to do with it's planned a year ahead of time, just like Stephanie said. They write it a year ahead of time, just like last year's WrestleMania. Right there, wink. Put the little sparkle in my eye right there. You can, and take the wrinkles out too, Chris. So what we're looking at here is the promotions, and sometimes the wrestlers. I've been guilty of this as well. Outsmarting ourselves, outsmarting the storyline, outsmarting the finish, and outsmarting the angle on the overall business. And guess what happens? Everybody gets confused. Even the people trying to outsmart everybody get confused. And this Rock interview feels like he's just trying to twist the narrative after the fact. Oh, you guys, you should have known what I was trying to do. I was just trying to peel back. It's about Cody and Cena. But here comes Travis Scott, who I didn't even know was going to... He's literally the director of the board of TKO. That was the lower third, right? Who said, I didn't even know they booked this dude to come out at the main event of WrestleMania. You can't have it both ways, Rock.
Going to give you some more quotes, which I don't even get this. The Rock also claimed that Elimination Chamber tickets weren't selling, so here we go. Well, that must have been the only WWE show where tickets weren't selling in 2 years then. And I think they were selling just fine.
Could I counter that with something?
Yeah.
I heard the WrestleMania tickets weren't selling as well, so why didn't you show up and advertise yourself for WrestleMania?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot,
anyway.
Man. There's a lot, isn't there? It's not because he didn't send me to the pickup truck after I recovered from the infection. This is not... Definitely ain't.
You should have taken a better clothesline from him.
You know what? Oh, what a callback, dude. Great, man. You claim to not have a good memory. There you go.
Do you know what it was? Is that I was thinking, should we retell that story? But we've still got the clip of the original time he told that story that I never posted. So it might make its way onto YouTube this week. I don't know. But here's the quote. I get a call from Ari Emanuel. He said, we need help at Elimination Chamber. Ticket sales are a little slow. But beyond that, he goes, what we are finding is, with Elimination Chamber, it's becoming the pay-per-view that's been interesting. Fans have had fun, but it's also the conduit to WrestleMania. And how do we create Elimination Chamber that people must tune in to see? How do we create that? And he goes, right now, we don't have that. And he said, will the final boss show up? So... I got to interrupt you again, and I'm so sorry. Man, just even the first quote from Rocky and then this doubles down it. Your Hogan analogy is right on. This is very much a Hulk Hogan type of quote. It is very self-serving when you sort of read the words back out, I said, well, let me give it some thought and let me get back to you. So I gave it some thought. I got back to Ari. I got back to Triple H and Nick Khan, we had a call. I said, I have an idea. What's most important to the final boss? The most important thing to the final boss isn't titles, it's not money, it's not fame. Isn't it? Anyway, been there, done that, and grateful for that. Final boss wants your soul. And then he talks about John Cena. As we get closer to Elimination Chamber, we were kicking ideas around, and Triple H said, what about this? What about John turning? So apparently at least he gives a Triple H credit there. I said, I love it. The next thing is you've got to speak to John and see if he loves it. John loved the idea of turning, but there's this anchor here that I am going to root in, which is a real thing I've been experiencing the past 20, 25 years. I don't know what that means. But anyway, so when we were moving forward with John and this idea, I knew then that the best thing for the final boss is we've established this thing with Cody's soul. We can always come back to it. I made the call. I don't want to be involved in that. Let the final boss step back into the shadows. Let all the spotlight go to John and Cody. Let's not make it about Cody's soul or John's soul. Let's let them do what they do. Stevie! Why? Why would he say something so stupid? That he established the soul storyline. Then why would he take himself out? He's as integral as the other two. And now it makes no sense.
Well, this is some good old-fashioned hardcore gaslighting of the fans and everybody else to say, this is what we were going to do all along. We knew we were going to do this. Him stepping back, it's the interview. Well, the final boss doesn't want titles or anything. I understand that. He wants your soul. Okay, we got it. But he
does not establish what that means.
We didn't establish. We haven't established what a lot of things mean yet. But we're trying to do this. So if we sound confused, join us, because everybody's confused. But what I'm looking at here is just, you know what this is? This is a Hulk Hogan type situation. And I mean this in the most respectful way. He's surrounding himself. It's a Vince McMahon thing too. Surrounding yourself in your inner circle by yes men, yes people, ass kissers, entourage, all this stuff. You can never do anything wrong. That's what it feels like. For somebody, nobody raised their hand and said, Brian Gewirtz or anybody on his team and said, well, you understand this anchor that you're talking about here, Rocky, or final, Mr. FP. I don't know what they call him because he uses the final boss terminology a lot in the third person right there.
I was thinking Facebook, but carry on.
Well, he might be Mr. Facebook. I'm not sure.
He's Mr. Instagram.
I am not on social media. I don't know. I'm Mr. Wrinkly Eyes over here trying to smooth it out with the right color temperature. I have my own problems to deal with, you know? But the soul stuff, you talk about anchors. This is where it's contradictory in the same quote. And I think you picked up on it as well. The anchor, whatever that means. You know what the anchor of this is? The title is the title match. But more than that, Cena is willing to sell his soul. Well, he already won a shot at the title. But we figured for Cena to win the title because he sold his soul to The Rock. I'm understanding this. I mean, he'll do another interview and it'll be like, that never happened. Basically, he wanted the 17th title and he was willing to sell his soul to The Rock to get that. Meaning The Rock is the anchor of this entire storyline. With the title, with the soul, with Cody, with Cena, which he's already telegraphed. Yeah, Cody's going to turn heel eventually, and eventually Cena's going to turn babyface. Enjoy the show. So he went up Hunter. You want to talk about dipping in and out of, C theories or alternative theories? Do you think he give Triple H credit for the Cena heel turn in case it goes wrong?
Yes. I want to ask you something else just before we get off this. So, obviously, John Cena sells his soul to The Rock. What did Cena get out of it?
Cena already won it. He had a chance at the title before that. It's not like Rock helped him win the Elimination Chamber to qualify for that. We talked about, Hunter had that theory. I believe Hunter had the alternative booking of having Cena turn during the title match at WrestleMania. And I believe that would have saved Rock more than anybody because now we got a storyline post-WrestleMania. You can talk about selling your soul to The Rock, but you've already done that, and Rock inserted himself. I keep going back to that. It makes no sense unless you are doing retroactive booking after the fact. Yeah, we meant to do that. You guys are the stupid ones because you didn't see that obviously I was going to make it about John and Cody. No. Nobody clued anybody into the fact that you showed pictures during your video about The Rock interview. There were T-shirts about The Rock finally coming back home to Las Vegas. If you bought that shirt, if you bought a ticket, if you paid for the pay-per-view expecting to see The Rock and you didn't get him, he has an explanation for that, by the way. Because don't you worry, we might have ripped you off, but we're going to have another chance to take your money later on.
He did say with Cody that we'll have a chance to revisit this at some point. But I don't know. Yeah, fine. They never ever said that The Rock was going to be at WrestleMania 41. But the fact is that you would have to have been brain dead to have not assumed that so heavily. Once again, I think I said this, wherever I said it, I don't know. Becky Lynch made it really obvious that she was going to be at WrestleMania when she said, "Oh, I'm not going to be at WrestleMania." You basically, it's the purposeful swerve. You all know how it's going to go, kind of thing. But then 2 days ago, The Rock on Instagram says he's in Hawaii. Why do you even mention that? Do you know what I mean? It seems like such an obvious bait and switch that, oh, well, I'm in Hawaii now, but I'm going to be at WrestleMania kind of thing. Or you could have just like recorded that the day of and then posted it. Sorry, days earlier, then posted it the day of and then turned up. But the fact is that the only reason that Travis Scott got any reaction whatsoever is because they thought that heralded Dwayne Johnson coming down the ramp. And people were still holding on to hope even after the bell rang. Even until the little executive producer credits of Paul Levesque and
Lee Fittings from ESPN.
Lee Fittings from ESPN as well. Until that happened, and then everyone's like, none of it made sense. And the fact was, he wasn't busy doing anything. He was pootling around in his car in Hawaii, and then obviously he was sat watching the show from his house, and then he had time to also do the Pat McAfee show the next day. 2 days later as well. He was available.
Well, he might not have been available. You know why? Because I think he needed to be in Hawaii. He needed to be there because there was going to be a special freight delivery of Vince McMahon's old T-Rex head that was on the wall was behind him during the interview. Because my wife, why does he have a T-Rex head behind him? I go, because he has more money than God. And that was Vince's old. There was some subliminal thing where I said, why did Vince have a T-Rex head on the wall in his office, and now there's a T-Rex head behind? Right? Are we reliving history or the patterns of history of Hogan, Vince, and like, why do you have a T-Rex head behind you? I couldn't get my eyes off it. I was listening to the interview, but I'm looking. It's like, what is it doing there?
I've got one more bit of the quote to give you. I called John after the Elimination Chamber called Cody, and I said, I think the final boss's work is done. We've established it. We just pulled off the greatest angle in wrestling history. There's more to that, but let's pick up that quote. The greatest angle in wrestling history. Does it rank for you?
Initially it did, because it had to, because it's never been seen. Not to that level. And he did make a note and said, outside of Hulk Hogan back in the 90s turning a heel and going with the NWO, he did put that in context, that it wasn't the greatest alone, it was greatest besides that. I'm not quite sure. I think still right up there. People might not know, casual fans today, but one of the greatest babyface sudden turns was Nikita after the Magnum TA accident, being behind Dusty, going in the cage. That moment, goosebumps right there. And you don't know what he's going to do if you're going to attack Dusty, and he goes after the Horseman, and the people, they go banana, as Pat Patterson would say.
I'm just looking at the list. I mean, there's been tons of fantastic. Andre the Giant. I mean, that was a great turn.
Wow. You know what?
87, yeah.
87 leading the WrestleMania 3, which I would believe would be an even bigger show in a way than any WrestleMania outside of one. For the fight of for the company to go from here off the charts up there. Yeah, Andre's got to be. I can't think of any heel turn out of Hogan and Andre that can literally be talked about today as unbelievable, that you never thought you would ever see it happen.
Well, in fairness, Austin was pretty unbelievable, but for completely different reasons, I guess. Let's get to a couple of note. So last year's turn of events. Oh, I didn't actually finish the quote. I would finesse things. No, this is very important from Dwayne. He says, this is amazing. We have 6 weeks. Let's build it. Let's crush it. I'll be right there with you. I'm always here if you need me, but it's best for the final.
I'm sorry to laugh and interrupt. I'm right there with you.
In Hawaii.
Get
driving.
out of here. I'm right there with you in spirit.
Best for the final boss to not be involved in that finish. I would have finessed things. Here's another thing. I would have finessed things a little differently to how we got there, but that's just me creatively. There are a lot of minds in the room, but the bottom line is I love John getting number 17. I would have finessed things differently, or a little differently. I'm wondering what he's talking about there.
It could be just, hey, it's not perfect. We can get that. You know what I mean? He was trying to be, that's his version of maybe being humble and saying it wasn't a perfect angle. Might have been some stuff I could have did differently, or just a minor little push under that bus for Triple H, like in the beginning. This was all his idea. John's heel turn was all his idea.
So last year's turn of events once again proved that The Rock turned up last minute, upended the storyline's structure. Then they had to pivot. That word's going to come up again soon. When it was obvious that fans wanted Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns again, they were rejecting The Rock coming in at that point and taking over Cody's place. Even more obvious, that's where they were that's not where they were going initially, because Cody had just won the Royal Rumble. People forget that. He had just won the Royal Rumble. Then all of a sudden he's not good anyway. Then WWE even produced a documentary where they claim, admittedly, it was an entertaining way to build to WrestleMania in the end, but it was a booking shambles that led into WrestleMania 40, and they were claiming that that was the plan all along, which I don't think anybody believes that was the plan all along.
Oh, no way. I mean, there's no way. But then again, like when you look at it, maybe they could have learned a lesson, which they really didn't learn, was that we can embrace some chaos from Rumble to Elimination Chamber to WrestleMania and keep people guessing. The problem is you're acting like we were never guessing. We were never pivoting. We were never doing these things, or we had plans all along. That Rocky was going to come out, whisper in Cody's ear. Cody's going to look like someone just shot a puppy right in front of him, and then say, this is the match we're going to do, but it's not going to be for the title, even though this dude won the Royal Rumble. Hey, Cody, there's always SummerSlam or the Raw after WrestleMania for you, little bucko. I'm going to rub your hair, mess it up and tell you you're a good little Royal Rumble winner, but just wait over here. But then, for some reason, they did pivot, which, man, in the past, they would double, triple, and quadruple down. Roman Reigns as a babyface before the tribal chief. Here's your open up that throat. We're going to shove it right down your throat. And I don't know how they pivoted and finally gave Cody the opportunity to finish the story, a 2-year-long story, which I give WWE credit for. But how did they do that, and who was responsible? Was that part of, we talk about alternative theories, was that part of the beginning of the Triple H Rock power struggle? Because I really do believe WrestleMania 41 was Rock just sitting back too and peeling back to let Triple H create multiple statues and multiple belts and come out multiple times in order to let him give himself enough rope to you know what. It felt very much like, go ahead, McMahon's, have your little mark out weekend, and I'll just sit back here and you can take the blame for anything negative that comes out of WrestleMania 41. Unfortunately, The Rock put himself in the center of the main event title storyline, so he's, I feel like, getting a lot more flack than even Triple H for the self-serving promotion weekend.
Yeah,
that was a total surprise, by the way. He didn't know none of that stuff was going to happen.
No, he didn't know anything about that. Yeah, it's very interesting that, one, he says it's Triple H's idea for John Cena to turn, and then toward the end of that quote said, I would have done things differently. And now that all this negativity from the fans toward, at the very least, the main event, that's all going to get stored like water in a camel's hump. That is. That's all. That won't be forgotten. All that negative thought process, all those negative comments, and then at some point, The Rock can always just point over and say, "Well, I didn't think of the John Cena heel turn."
Yeah. Well, I would say they may store, but I think they got the memory of elephants when it comes to the next time The Rock shows up at SummerSlam or Raw or whatever. they are going to cheer no matter what. All will be forgiven, all will be forgotten, and here's my money again for hoping that I'll get the T-shirts at the WrestleMania Fan Access on the weekend, but I'm going to hope he shows up. Here's some more money to hopefully show up. I'll give you an example. Here's an example. At the height, supposedly, of all the Vince McMahon stuff, he came out on SmackDown and people are holding their kids up in the air and to get a look at him and cheering like nothing ever happened or was happening as he came out there. Where you been? He didn't do that then, but he did it before. He just walks out.